Good morning, Student Affairs fans. Please take your seats. We will begin in 3 minutes. 3 minutes for the contested issues debates in Student Affairs. Excellence in Student Affairs Conference, please take your seats. We will begin in 1 minute. 1 minute warning. Good morning, higher ed and higher ed fans. It is Thursday, December 15th, and this is a very special edition of Student Affairs Live, the online learning community for student affairs educators in higher education. I'm your MC for the day, Ryan Bissonette, and I am the Assistant Director of Leadership and Experiential Learning at Rutgers University, New Brunswick. Today we are broadcasting live from the Excellence in Student Affairs Conference at Rutgers University with our second edition of Contested Issues, Debates in Student Affairs. Conference attendees, let your colleagues, friends, and family know that they can tune into our live stream now at watch.higheredlive.com. You can also participate in the learning community today by following along on Twitter and tweeting using the hashtags HigherEdLive and ESAC16. At this time, I would like to introduce the hosts for Higher Ed Live and your moderators for today's debates. First up, she's originally from Parker, Colorado, is currently the Assistant Director of Residential Initiative on the Study of the Environment and a doctoral student at Michigan State University. She enjoys running, camping, and being outdoors with her two boys, and once survived and won a run-in with a javelina in Arizona. Please welcome to the stage, Heather Shea Gasser. And next up, from Paramus, New Jersey, and currently serving as the Senior Director for Student Engagement at Rutgers University. He holds a degree in business from Rutgers, was once a performing stage magician, was an Olympics of the Mind international champion, and enjoys margaritas and merengue dancing. Please welcome to the stage, Tony Duty.
I think most of you know Student Affairs Live is part of the Higher Ed Live network, and Higher Ed Live is produced by M. Stoner, a marketing and communication firm that works with education institutions on branding, strategy, web design, and more. Over the last 2.5 years, Heather and I have produced over 100 episodes with 200 of the very top scholars, practitioners, and leaders in our field. We've had people view from all 50 states and 162 countries. In the last year alone, we've had over 41,000 people take advantage of the content on the Student Affairs Live website. So if you haven't checked it out, we hope that you'll get on, you'll download a podcast, and join our community of learning.
Thanks so much, Tony. Much of our success over the past 2.5 years has been due to our exclusive sponsorship by ACPA, College Student Educators International. ACPA's sponsorship of Student Affairs Live is one of the many ways that you can be innovative with your professional development. You can learn more by going to their website at myacpa.org.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Tony. We'd also like to extend a special note of thanks to Peter Magolda and Marcia Baxter Magolda for granting permission to use the Contested Issues name for this special event. Our hope is that this open exchange of ideas pays tribute to their legacies. Debate. At this point in American history, there are few words that incite more stress or greater need for a tall glass of wine than the word debate. Over the past few years, this type of discourse has become increasingly aggressive, discouraging, and triggering for Americans all over the country. However, debate is an essential part to our society. For centuries, debate has been the bedrock of informal and formal exchange of differing ideas and perspectives, helping to form the very essence of democracy both here and abroad. Today, at one of the oldest institutions of higher education in America, we hope to set an example for how to put the civility back into civil discourse. Our guests today have prepared their arguments to be respectful and entertaining. The goal today, to cultivate further dialogue amongst our colleagues in student affairs and beyond. Our format is simple. Each guest will deliver a 60-second opening statement. After that, each side will have 60 seconds to answer the question from our moderators. I will then pose a crowdsourced question to each side, allowing for a 45-second answer. They will bring it home with a 30-second closing statement from each guest. I will remind our guests that there are time limits in place to keep the show moving. So when you hear this bell, please conclude your current thought as quickly as possible. Yes, Dr. McGinty, this applies to you as well. At this point, the audience will choose the winner of our debate. For those tuning in online, you can help to choose our winner as well by tweeting at HigherEdLive, the hashtag. For those of you here in our live audience, you'll notice you have two cards. a yellow card, and a green card. So when prompted, you'll raise your green card or your yellow card based on who you believe won the debate, awarding one guest ultimate bragging rights. For the hundreds in attendance, and for those watching around the world, let's get ready to rumble. Our first topic this morning is on social media. Is it harmful or is it good? Let's meet our guests for this first debate. We're on. On one side of this debate is the current director of residential staff and programs at NYU. She played softball in college, coaches her son's Little League team, and is generally infatuated with just about anything in the sports world. Originally born in the Dominican Republic, but was bred as a Scarlet Knight here at Rutgers, please welcome Delmy Lendoff. And on our opposing side is Fordham University's Mr. March, 1986, and a native of Troy, New York. He's the Senior Associate Vice President of Student Affairs at NYU, has read over 750 of his RA's favorite books, and has the blog to prove it, whattheyreading.blogspot.com. Please welcome to the stage Tom Ellett.
All right, welcome, Delmy and Tom. So today they are going to be discussing, does social media cause more harm than good? And I want to also remind everybody in our audience that we've asked folks to take opposing perspectives here, and these may or may not be their actual personal beliefs. So we'll say that at the beginning just so everybody knows. But on the side that says that social media does cause more harm than good, we have Delmy. Your 60 seconds begin now.
Great. Social media is an addictive drug. It consumes your time and influences your mind. It destroys the careers and aspirations of people in every generation. It is a drug that promotes benefits of making connection and staying connected at the cost of fragile and destroying friendship, families, and careers. It is most harmful to those that identify with lower levels of social and cultural capital, as they don't have the means to provide for the walls and systems and programs to protect them from their identities getting stolen and their reputations getting ruined. 43% of students encounter cyberbullying. At what cost? CEOs of those companies are making billions of dollars. The CEO of Facebook just received a $2 billion increase, and his net worth is currently over $50 billion at the cost of your privacy, at the cost of the lives of many people. Thank you.
All right, very good. Now, arguing that social media is more good than it is harmful, Tom, your 60 seconds begin now.
1,125 friends out there for me. I have 2,455 LinkedIn, sorry, that's Twitter, yes, and 1,465 LinkedIn friends. I also have too many Snapchat friends, and you know what? I give up on these pictures that keep coming through. Connections. By using social media, there are so many times in a day that I have thoughts I want to share, things I want to get from other people, looking at tweets, looking at pictures, looking at blogs. I have no fear of missing out. SM is called a place called SM, social media. It spreads information faster than any kind of media out there today. Think of things like Arab Spring, Occupy Wall Street, Black Matter Lives, and like Lives Matter. Also, think about on our campus security and having active shooter information. SM allows us to reminisce about our past, find our friends, find our colleagues, and find our relatives, some we may have forgotten about.
Wow, some very compelling statements. Very good. So Delmy, your points I think were really great, but I have a question. Ray Junko has written a book called Engaging Students Through Social Media. And in his book, he talks specifically about LGBT students, and they may or may not be willing to go to a meeting on campus or connect with people face-to-face, but joining a social media network, an online Facebook group or something like that is a way for them to explore aspects of their identity. Doesn't social media provide that forum for connecting, specifically for LGBT students?
I agree that it provides a forum for connection, but I will also add that that same forum is the same forum that's used for bullying. I'm sitting at Rutgers on the Bush campus. I don't have to say much about what that means in terms of how it could be misused and the impact that it could have when misused. We could connect with our LGBTQ students and all of our students face to face. We could connect with our students in a more private. We could send them an email. We could engage. Social media, I think, could become an excuse for trying to reach a broader audience, and yet it singles them out in that same token. So I would say, what about we go back to knowing people for who they are as individuals and make individual connections? Get out of your offices. We all could get out of our offices, go to the dining halls, and go and connect with students face to faces.
All right, thank you so much. You can. All right, so I have a question for you as well. So online profiles often represent an idealized and very curated positive perspective, often hiding negative aspects of people's lives. So isn't this a potential source of angst for impressionable, traditional age college students who feel they have to keep up with these false realities? Your 60 seconds begins now. Yeah.
There are a lot of pressures out there for students. But I would also say that this is an opportunity, especially in a field like student affairs, we're full of ENFPs. This allows introverts the opportunity to share their perspective in a thoughtful way. So I think it's really important that we have another venue for those who may be a little bit more skeptical of standing up and saying, I believe in this. I can share things that I believe in. I can find information that's really out there and put it out there to my colleagues to believe in. So no, I don't necessarily think it's something people can hide behind, but it's a chance for me to put my best foot forward and allow myself to personalize my life to you and all of you out there.
Everyone, follow Tom Ellett on Twitter. We have a couple of questions from the audience. Ryan, what do we know?
All right, so Delmy, I've got one for you. So we might all agree that people misuse or overuse social media, but given its prevalence in society, shouldn't we be figuring out how to use it to better it instead of not using it at all? You have 45 seconds.
Sure. If we could figure out how to make it work better for the people, I'm all for it. Currently, we're figuring out how to make it work better for the people making the billions of dollars, the CEOs, the companies, the thousands of dollars that you have to pay to rebuild your reputation if you don't like what you have there. That's who we're making it better. So if we were to really make it better for the individual users, if we were able to find a way to decrease the number of bullying and cyberbullying incidents and the number of incidents where people's lives are being impacted and people's careers are being intentionally destroyed in some ways. So once we figure that out, yes, I'm all up for it. But currently, I am seeing too much on the end of CEOs making money, corporations making money, and too many young people, too many people from low social level of socioeconomic levels being impacted in negative ways that are more harmful than they are good at this time.
Very good. All right. Thank you very much. And Tom, I've got a question for you as well. With 140 character responses and quick-witted posts, doesn't social media weaken content and demean conversation? How has social media changed our ability to have authentic, deep, and meaningful relationships? You have 45 seconds.
I think it allows people, as I mentioned earlier, to be really thoughtful about what they want to put out there. And it also allows the crowdsourcing to come back and say, I don't agree, and here's why. A lot of times in life when we're dealing with people face to face, we may be skeptical or a little afraid to be able to say, I don't agree with you. This gives people a chance to send a message privately based on something they may have sent out publicly to say, you may want to think differently about what it is you're putting out there. It's a really good opportunity to learn from others in how you use your social media, different software products out there.
Excellent.
So we have concluding statements now from each of our folks. 30 seconds, going to go by really, really fast, and then you all will have a chance to vote. So final thoughts on social media is harmful. Delmy.
Sure. Social media denies students access to higher education. It has proven to negatively impact student grades and promote cheating. It leads to lower levels of work productivity. It has led to high stress level, personality and brain disorders, depression, low self-esteem, eating disorders. It makes it easy for gangs, criminals to unite, and for those criminal hate groups to recruit. It is believed to help solve crimes at the cost of invasion of privacy and profiling. 49% of the people that use it have heard false news via social media. And Hillary nicely said it, fake news has real life consequences.
You had to get that last statement in. Good job. Tom, your concluding statement that social media is good.
Social media helps promote and raise funds for causes in our communities. On our college campuses, things like alternative breaks, dance marathons, and Relay for Life. Hashtag giving happens better through social media. It also personalizes your life. You have thoughts of the day that go out there. It's able to slow the pace. You read it on your terms and when you want to respond. It also allows us to galvanize on issues that are important to us on our campus communities. It's also timely, and it allows for a greater impact. Watch the impact. People don't always look at the intent.
All right.
All right, very good. So now it's your turn to decide. If you're watching from afar, please tweet in with the hashtag HigherEdLive. And if you're here at the conference, it's time for you to get out your yellow and green cards. If you are Team Delmy, please hold up your green card. And if you are Team Tom, please hold up your yellow card.
You killed me.
All right, it looks like it wasn't close or fair. The winner of our debate, Delmy Lendaw. And how about a round of applause for both Delmy and Tom? Send them off nice. Thank you both very much. Tom, thank you very much for all of the extra that went on there. Our next topic is social media politics. Let's meet our guests for this debate. On the Share Your Politics side of the debate is a Long Branch, New Jersey native and no newbie to debating as a 3-year veteran of her high school debate team. She was a competitive French horn player, can pluck more than a few strings on her ukulele, and is a notable spoken word performer. She has home field advantage as the director of the Center of Social Justice and LGBTQ Communities here at Rutgers University. Please welcome Zanetta Rago Kraft. And on the Keep Your Politics to Yourself side of the debate, he is the founder and lead facilitator for SwiftKick and the founder of the Student Affairs Collective and SA Chat on Twitter. He is the world record holder for most hugs by one person in 1 minute. He once bribed an immigration officer to get back into the country and held up all traffic on the Golden Gate Bridge, but not in the same day. Making his way from the Big Apple, New York City, New York, please welcome Tom Kriegelstein.
All right, let's have a seat. So, I think you might be in some trouble here, Tom. Not only was she a 3-time debater, but she actually won the 2005 New Jersey Debate Duo for extemporaneous debating, right? In 2005.
A while ago.
Okay, so it's on me, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so our first topic is politics and social media, and you are on the side that politics we should share our politics on social media. So you've got 60 seconds for your opening remarks.
So if you are a student affairs practitioner who only uses your Facebook to keep in touch with family, close friends, and adorable kittens, my stance on this debate probably will not speak to you. However, if you are a practitioner who uses your social media platforms to keep students informed of campus happenings, connect with colleagues, and share interesting articles, my stance on this debate is pertinent. What I hope my opponent and I can agree on is that it is impossible to ignore current events and the political climate, especially for our students and frankly ourselves. However, where we probably differ is in our belief of whether or not these platforms are appropriate and productive to engage, process, and/or lift up the stories that are too often ignored by the mainstream media. In a world that is increasingly connected through digital networks, for better or for worse, we have not only the choice but the responsibility to model engaging with different civic discourse and critical dialogue skills. In addition, if we want our students to know that we are someone they can rely on in times of political and personal struggle, living authentically both online and in person is an important part of our professional role. If we are meeting students where they're at, we're meeting them online.
All right, Tom, 60 seconds. You are arguing that we should keep our politics to ourselves.
Yep. So in preparation for this, I remember the internet meme where this guy's sitting at the computer and at the top it says log on to Facebook and at the bottom says and in an argument. And so I was thinking about this because my hope by the end of this is that it's not that we shouldn't have political debates, it's that having those political debates online versus taking that time to use it and have that debate offline is more effective or less effective depending on where you use it. For three main reasons. One is online is majority is text, and in a conversation, only 7% of the conversation is based around the text of the words we use. If you talk about the tone and the body language, that makes up the other 93% of effective communication. So we're missing some of the largest part of communication. The second is there's a cognitive bias called confirmation bias that says that we only listen to information that we are attracted to already or believe attaches to our worldview. And the last one was based on Pew Research that talked about how most people online will like what they already agree with. They'll challenge what they fully disagree with, but the people in the middle, the ones who are trying to change the opinion of, 80% of them ignore information when it's too challenging politically for them, and they'll not like it or debate against it. So it challenges the people who are trying to change the opinion of, they're not listening to the information in the first place.
Excellent. Okay. All right, Sonetta, my first question is to you. So isn't our role as educators to present really a balanced view and diverse perspectives to our students? If you use social media as a platform to share your own personal political views, how do you avoid being identified or at least perceived as being unapproachable by some students who may not think along the same lines or have the same values that you have? How can we be sure that in supporting some students that we're not alienating others?
That's a really great question, and I appreciate it. I think something that I'm realizing is that things that are human issues have become politicized. And things that I consider human rights, and maybe others would disagree with me, but hey, I'm here to be political, have been politicized, meaning that you can debate over whether or not someone has the right to live their lives fully. And so for me, I think things that are perceived as political are really things that we should all be talking about and engaging in. And ultimately, I'm not saying only people who agree with me or have the politics that I do should be posting their politics on social media. I'm saying you all should. You should not be afraid to post what you believe in because students are going to see themselves in you, and we need a balance of views and representation and opinions within both our profession and online.
Excellent, thank you. All right, you can applaud if you want.
Yeah.
So Tom, you used some research from Pew Research study, so I'm going to use some of that as well.
Right.
In October 2016, Pew Research study showed that 20% of respondents admitted that they had changed their minds about a political issue or political candidate after seeing that issue discussed on social media. So in particular, there was a shifting on views on a variety of topics and social issues such as Black Lives Matter movement, to gun control, to LGBTQ rights. Now, Tom, I've noticed you've got about 4,000 very close friends on Facebook. So that, doing the math, 20% of that equates to about 800 people. Now, I understand the frustration that people have and that you've expressed for engaging in social media, but wouldn't that be considered a fair price to pay to change the minds or to impact and educate people, those 800 people, and you start to multiply that across people in this room or people watching online, that's the kind of change that can really make an impact in the world.
Yeah, great question. So first, I just want to say hi to all my friends out there, the 4,000 of you that are watching right now, so on Twitter and here. So a great example of this was during the election that just happened, I'm sure some of you heard about. And at this election, towards the end, I put up my choice of who I wanted to win, and I was choosing the person who did get the most number of votes overall. I'm going to move on past that. And I'm not bitter, but I had this friend that I had been connected with throughout a couple of years, and she saw me put up my post, and all of a sudden, she made one comment, and she says, "How could you possibly blah, blah, blah?" And then she blocked me from her account. And I thought, wow, like our entire friendship was totally destroyed because of this one moment. And I thought, if I had a moment with her face to face and talked to her, I think that we would still be friends online, or we'd still be connected. And so when it comes to connecting with people, I'm not saying we shouldn't have these political debates. I'm saying doing it online misses so much of what the context of a conversation is.
Excellent.
All right, so for our crowdsourced questions, Zanetta, the first one is for you. Is there danger to expressing your political views? What if your current supervisor or even your future supervisor disagrees with you? Is the gamble worth it? You have 45 seconds.
There is absolutely a danger in being political online, right? We have to be perfectly frank. There are watchdog groups who watch student affairs practitioners, who watch administrators to see what they're posting, to see if they're being biased, to see if they're creating a hostile experience for whatever student community that your political views may not be in line with. But ultimately, I'm going to ask you to think about what's in danger if you are not, right? So students not knowing that they can access you, that they can speak to you, that they can have a conversation or a dialogue with you is a huge danger, particularly now when our students are struggling in isolation, right? When they are feeling devalued, when they are feeling unheard. Certainly, it is risky, but I say that risk is worth it.
All right, very good. Thank you. Tom, our next question is for you. Very few would say that TV news is neutral, balanced, or objective. Given this and the fact that students don't watch much TV news, why isn't social media the best platform to reach and engage students on political issues? You have 45 seconds.
Just go to Donald Trump's Twitter account. I mean, like, if that's, because he's getting all of his information from online sources, and he's saying that that's official information. The problem is that if we're not getting it from, depending on where we're getting it from, one of the challenges is that a credible source? And I don't think schools right now are teaching the students enough on how to find credible sources online, and so then they're looking at whatever the information is and calling it truth, and then it gets reshared or retweeted or blogged or posted about, and then someone will say, use that source that someone blogged about to become the credible source. So I think it's this dangerous spiral of students looking at uncredible sources for their information.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, it's me. We have 30 seconds for your concluding remarks.
Just because it's hard doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. You may think that a complete absence of political content on your social media is viewed as neutral, but let me tell you, silence is not neutral. You may also be thinking that there is simply too much at risk in being political via social media, but I would challenge you to think about who and what is at risk if you are not. Lastly, it's important to show up in solidarity for our students and our colleagues, both online and in person, now more than ever.
All right. 30 seconds. Concluding remarks by you, Tom.
I know student affairs professionals have all this extra time during the day, right? And so if you have 24 hours in a day, you have to choose wisely how to use that 24 hours. And my argument today and here isn't that we shouldn't have these political debates. I'm saying take that hour that you're going to argue with someone who's not going to change their mind online and go offline and go face-to-face with that person in their office or with the students and sit down and have a roundtable discussion to really impact them in a way that communication effectively works, because it's not effective when it's done online.
All right. Excellent. Thank you both very much. All right, now, again, time for our audience to decide. If you are on Team Zanetta, please hold up your yellow card. And if you are on Team Tom, please hold up or tweet your green card.
Wow.
No, that's a good mix.
Wow. Okay, that's going to be tough. But I'm going to give this one.
She
Folks,
has
while she may have won the popular vote, I'm going to give this one to Tom Kriegelstein.
Great job, man.
It was the Electoral College. It was by table, really. All right. So our third topic is on safe spaces on campus, and let's introduce our guests. Swerve. All right. Very good. Debating from the yellow corner, coming to us from Phoenix, Arizona, she currently serves as the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs here at Rutgers. She makes a mean guacamole and world-famous Rice Krispie treats. She is a lover of the Caribbean Ocean, even though she can't swim. Please welcome Dr. Felicia McGinty. And in the green corner, this scrappy debater from the South Bronx just got back from his trip to Barcelona, Spain. He is an aspiring pilot, played sandlot baseball with Boston Red Sox legend Manny Ramirez, and is the Associate Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs at Rutgers, New Brunswick. Please welcome Dr. Salvador Mena. And this should be interesting.
Moderator for this debate, not Tony here. Welcome to both of you. It's a pleasure to visit your campus. It's a beautiful place. I'm really interested in your topic, so I think we're going to get right to the questions, right to your opening statement. So, Felicia, you're first. You're going to be arguing that safe spaces are important on our campus. Your 60 seconds begins now.
Heather, it is my argument that safe spaces are intended to create environments where bigotry and oppressive views are not tolerated, and where people can discuss issues and support one another. Now, those among us, usually those with more privileged identities, like perhaps my cisgender, Christian, male-identifying, middle-class, PhD-having counterpart here, they might assume that safe spaces are only for the weak and hypersensitive, and perhaps that those safe spaces are places where marginalized communities come together to discuss their perceived marginalization. But I disagree. Young people are seeking safe spaces in an age where there's just inequality, and they're looking to find personal and political education in or from those safe spaces. And I would say that safe spaces are neither absolute nor literal. And the outpouring of criticism against safe spaces just highlights what a non-egalitarian society that we live in, and further shatters marginalized persons' identities. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Dr. McGinty. All right, Dr. Mena. So, your opening statement that safe spaces, I should also preface that this may or may not be the opinions of or perspectives of the people who are on the stage, okay? We asked them to debate opposing sides. So, your 60 seconds begins now.
Thank you. In 1960, the A&T 4, as they were known, 4 students from North Carolina A&T requested service at the whites-only counter at Woolworths in Greensboro, North Carolina. The rest of the 1960s and the 1970s saw college students bring about change in society and higher education, women and gay rights, black cultural centers, black studies, etc. These students were targeted by societal and campus naysayers, and they never requested that the very same institutions they were seeking to change provide them with so-called safe spaces to process the targeting they experienced. These individuals paved the way for campuses to be what they are today. While institutions are far from being perfect, they are much more inclusive than ever before. Those who paved the way would be ashamed of how soft this current generation of students have become. They would expect this generation of college students would demand and exude an attitude of ownership for their respective campuses, the type of attitude they were not able to display when the likes of Governor George Wallace in 1963 stood in the entrance of the academic building at the University of Alabama, keeping out the first admitted African-American students. Today, the majority of administrators and faculty on the side of students seeking to address continuing inclusion and equality in higher education and society. So why the need for safe spaces? Take the campuses back. Take
Need
the
I
campus
say
back.
more?
All right. Woo! It's getting hot up here. Okay, so I have a question for you, Dr. McGinty. So you suggest, and you stated directly, that bigotry and oppressive views should not be tolerated. So who determines which views are oppressive? And doesn't that position smack up against the Constitution and freedom of speech? Your 60 seconds.
Well, certainly, let's dissect the Constitution, who was written for whom by whom. So once again, the need for safe spaces is a bedrock of the American way. We were a country founded on exclusivity and privilege, and so until our decision makers actually reflect the diversity of the population, then I think we will continue to need safe spaces. And students have a right to expect that their colleges and universities provide spaces for them where they can exchange in ideas and learn from one another and share without fear of retribution or continued oppression.
Great. Thank you so much. Woo.
Settle down.
All right, Salvador. So you were in the room this morning when Vernon Wall was talking, and he stated this morning in his keynote, he cited a quote saying that social justice is a vision of society where all members are physically and psychologically safe and secure. And then to bring Nevis Sanford into the discussion, don't we need to provide support through safe spaces that balances the challenges that some students face to ensure this vision, as Vernon talked about it?
Well, he also talked about, not just having absolutes and thinking about how do we bring it together. And so the more that we continue to enable this notion of safe spaces, the harder it's going to become for us as educators to try to bridge that gap between students in this current climate where everything's an absolute. You're right or you're wrong, you're left or you're right. How do we begin to bridge that gap? And part of it is that we have a role to play as educators to encourage our students to move towards the middle in terms of reaching out to each other and beginning that conversation. Certainly there are ground rules that you can set. There are ways that we can learn to be in the space and learn how to process and facilitate the space so that those conversations can happen. But again, if the immediate space that we're saying is go to that safe space, then we're missing that opportunity.
Okay, great. Ryan, questions from the audience?
We do have a few questions coming in. Thank you. Our first question is for Felicia. How can we even begin to provide or guarantee space when so many have opposing points of view? What about a meeting or a speaker or a flyer that I find repulsive or threatening? Is that okay?
Well, actually, I find this question something that threatens my very safety, and so I choose not to answer. No, seriously. Seriously, I think that is our constant work, and so providing safe spaces for students doesn't mean that we coddle them. It doesn't mean that we don't speak our truth. You can still have honesty in a safe space, but the idea is that the intentionality of the folks that are in that space are that they're seeking to understand and to allow a place for people to be heard that's free of judgment. And so I think that those things are not mutually exclusive, and it is possible to do both as well as have controversial speakers and challenge ideas. But identifying spaces where students can come together is important. Thank you.
Thank you. Salvador, next question is for you. If you argue that safe spaces are no longer necessary because of past sacrifices that many individuals have made, does that mean the work is done and no student today needs to be fearful? You have 45 seconds.
No, the work is far from being done, but it needs to happen from a perspective of ownership and acknowledgement for the price that those who came before paid. They sacrificed so that we can be engaged in the work here today in a much different way, in a way where we have ownership for the space and not where we're sort of having our students with a mindset that they're just sort of still guests or still unwanted on our campuses. More than ever before, we're on the side of those who are trying to bring about change. Again, we don't have George Wallace at the door anymore saying, you can't come here. We are here, we're gonna be here, now let's do it on our terms. So that's what I'm saying.
Thank you very much.
All right, closing statements from both of the folks on the stage. We'll start with you, 30 seconds, sorry.
Safe spaces allow marginalized voices and unrepresented voices to be heard, and a space for people to speak without fear or hostility. To coin a phrase from a student at UC Davis, maybe what we're actually not seeking are safe spaces, but brave spaces where people can have those conversations. And so I don't think we should consider this a weakness. I don't think we should consider ourselves as coddling students. I think we should be agents of change and helping them to claim their voices in those brave spaces.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, 30-second closing statement to you.
As I alluded in my opening statement, by providing so-called safe spaces, we are enabling our students and fostering a mindset of victimhood in them. And while some students are seeking safe spaces on campus, others are continuing to exude their privilege and ownership over the campus. Hannah Holborn Gray, a former university president, once said, "The purpose of a university is not to make young adults comfortable, it is to make them think." It is time for our historically underrepresented and marginalized students to adopt a "this is my house" attitude so that they can attain the benefits of a full university experience.
Wow.
All right. Compelling stuff from both of our debaters. Thank you both very much. It's time for you to decide. If you are Team Felicia, please hold up your yellow card. And if you are Team Salvador, please hold up your green card. And it's not even a little bit close. The winner is Felicia McGinty.
Not fair, not fair.
And one more round of applause for both Sal and Felicia. All right, are we ready for one more? Our last debate of the evening is lowering the drinking age. Please, let's meet our final debaters of the morning. Debating for lowering the drinking age to 18 is a Brooklyn-born amateur photographer and baker. He is the director of student conduct at Rutgers, is a fourth-generation only child, and the proud owner of 100 bow ties. Please welcome Kevin Pitt. And finally, debating on the Leave It at 21 side is the executive director of residence life at Rutgers, New Brunswick. He is a world traveler, theater lover, and urban planning aficionado, hailing from the great city of Toledo, Ohio, and representing the Ohio State University Student Affairs Graduate Program. Please welcome Dan Morrison.
Kevin, you have no bow tie.
Had to mix it up a little bit.
All right, gotcha. Okay, I just want to make clear that we've asked our guests or panelists to come up here to represent both sides of an issue. Their views expressed today doesn't necessarily represent their actual personal views. In fact, I know that they don't.
Thank you.
So, Kevin, you've got 60 seconds to argue that we should lower the drinking age to 18. Your time starts now.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having me. We're losing the war on underage drinking, and the human cost is accumulating. One of my favorite things to do is to talk to old-timers in the field, folks who've been in the field 30, 40 years, and they talk about a time where the age limit, this is before, in 1984, before the age was raised to 21, and they never had, you talk to those folks, they didn't have the alcohol transports, the issues that we have on campuses today, right? They talk about times where the drinking was normalized, they were drinking around adults for the most part, didn't have the transports every day. Many scholars have argued that we're making the problem worse. And today you've heard a lot of talk, but let's talk about numbers. I love numbers. Let's talk about the data, right? So Washington University, a study found that the national drinking age, when it dropped to 21 in 1984, it lowered binge drinking for everyone except college students. And there have been over 4,000 deaths of students below the age of 21. So it's time to stop the madness. The behavior hasn't changed because we've dropped the age, and it's time to actually bring some data and some interesting some research into the problem.
Very good. All right, Dan, your turn. Your 60 seconds begins now.
Well, as one of those old people who was around in the field before 1984, I can tell you that while it feels that that was true, the reality is that in 1984, the right decisions were made. This law saves lives. It keeps alcohol out of high schools. Data show that right now, 18 to 20-year-olds get their alcohol from 21 to 23-year-olds. So if you shift that by 3 years, all of a sudden, we're now seniors in high school are buying it for freshmen in high school. This law saves lives. 25,000 people who are between the ages of 18 and 20 over the last 30 years are alive because of this law. I think another thing that's interesting to note is that we know a lot more now about brain chemistry and the evolving brain of adolescents. And right now, maturity of the brain is really important. The frontal lobes especially, which control judgment and self-control. Can you imagine what our campuses would be like with less self-control and less judgment?
All right, so I'm gonna jump off of Dan's point here and agree that research has pointed out that alcohol consumption can interfere with the development of young adults' brain's frontal lobes, which, as Dan points out, are essential functions for such things as emotional regulation, planning, organization. And when alcohol consumption interferes with this early adult brain development, the potential for chronic problems such as greater vulnerability to addiction, dangerous risk-taking behavior, which I'm sure you're dealing with as student conduct director, reduced decision-making ability, memory loss, depression, violence, and suicide is greater. So given this, it seems irresponsible in our charge as educators to support a policy or law that would impede development and lead to unhealthy behavior. How would you respond to that?
Well, I think that's a good point, and only if we had somewhere else to look, right? Only if we had a real-world example of somewhere else to look other than America. We do. The rest of the world, the rest of the industrialized world. So if you look at countries in Australia, elsewhere, Africa, the UK, the drinking age is not 21, right? And given those facts that you posited, you would seem that these students were walking around like zombies. That's not the case, right? So they've seen lower alcohol transports, right? They've seen lower incidents of sexual assault, right? So this is a uniquely American problem, and I think raising the age, the alcohol age being 21, I think makes the problem more acute.
Very good. All right. Dan, it seems that we're giving conflicting messages to students about what it means to be, quote, an adult. Once 18, students are legally considered to be adults, and they have new opportunities and choices to make, right? They control their academic and health records, they can vote, they can get married, they serve jury duty, work full-time, serve in the military, get a tattoo or piercing, take out a loan, go skydiving, buy fireworks. But they are not, however, trusted to drink alcohol. What's the difference?
I think the difference is that drinking alcohol is not a constitutional right. We have a lot of age limits on lots of things. You have to be 35 years old to run for president. You have to be 25 to rent a car, right? You have to be 21 to adopt a child in 38 of the states. So we have a lot of age limits already on things. I think that the data show that since these laws were changed, lives are being saved. And I think the important thing here is not simply saying it's a God-given right, but to say within the context of our society today, it's worth it to save lives.
Very good.
So we do have a couple of questions from our audience. Kevin, we'll go to you first. If we acknowledge the correlation of drinking and disruptive behavior, wouldn't a lower drinking age result in more incidents on campus and in our communities? You have 45 seconds.
I think initially there might be some adjustment periods with, if it was lowered to, overnight. I think eventually, though, we would see a norming of this behavior in the use of alcohol. And I think there's a lot of studies that have been shown when students are drinking around adults or people who are not binge drinking, they actually role model this behavior as they get older in life. I think about myself. When I was younger, under the age of 21, my parents had wine. They did not overdrink, they didn't overindulge, and so in my adult life, I chose not to do that as well. So I think over time, initially it might be a problem for student conduct directors and others on campus, but eventually I think it'll be better for students.
Excellent, thank you. Dan, last question is for you. In many European countries where the drinking age is 18 or younger and often not very well enforced, there are a few reported instances of binge drinking. Why not adopt this approach? You have 45 seconds.
I would actually say that the data show that, at least in Western Europe and parts of Central Europe, that binge drinking rates are actually higher than they are in the United States. That's the research that I found. I think the difference is we have two phenomena in the United States, mostly because of some of our privilege and our history, that we have more people go to college in the United States than anywhere else in the world. And more people, young adults, drive in the United States than anywhere else in the world. So comparing apples to apples, I think, is the difficult in this. But I would say that the key here is, in the United States, given how our rates of higher education and our rates of drivers, again, for me, it's about saving lives. And I think that dragging it down doesn't decrease binge drinking, it increases traffic deaths.
Thank you both.
Okay, you have 30 seconds. Kevin, we'll start with you for your concluding remarks.
So I just want to say that I don't think this is a controversial issue, the stance that I'm taking right now. And just to prove that point, in 2008, 135 college presidents supported lowering the drinking age. And you know how dire the plight is on our campuses. If university presidents, who are usually allergic to political controversy, have signed on for something like that. I think we've entered a phase where things are just getting worse. Hyper binge drinking, as I like to call it. Students are drinking to black out. And look at all the problems that has caused on our college campuses. So I think today is time to lower the age and to look forward to a different solution. Let's try it.
Okay, and your rebuttal, your final remarks.
I think the most important thing here to realize is that more work on the part of conduct officers and residence life professionals is not really the issue. The issue is whether or not there's enough data to show that change has been positive or negative. I think within the college environment, it may have been more negative than we would like. But I think in our society as a whole, it has actually decreased traffic deaths, lowered alcoholism rates in the United States, and kept alcohol out of high school, which is, I think, where the original law that MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, actually wanted to create.
Excellent. All right. Our final debate is over. It is your time, again, audience, to decide. And if you're watching in from afar, please tweet your results. If you are Team Kevin, please hold up your green card. And if you are Team Dan, please hold up your yellow card.
Wow.
And it is a running
that,
tie. But I'm going to go right here, right now. I'm going to say it. Initial results say Kevin Pitt is the winner of our experience today and takes home bragging rights. Well done. And one more round of applause for both Kevin and Dan.
Clapping for you. Good job, my friend.
And how about one more big round of applause for everybody who showed their courage today, stood up and debated on this stage. Very nice. And while our debates might be over, the conversations should continue. After all, no progress is made if opinions are silenced. Take the time to engage in real dialogues around these and many other difficult topics in today's zeitgeist. And above all else, seek to understand opposing views rather than seeking to change them all at once. We hope these debates spark new conversations on your campuses, and those conversations lead to a shift in perspective. All of our participants encourage you to partake in regular and healthy discourse. The future and strength of our field depends on it. Thank you so much for joining us today for this very special edition of Higher Ed Live. And from the Excellence in Student Affairs Conference at Rutgers University, Higher Ed Live would also like to thank the committee members of this conference, all of those working behind the scenes to make this event great, and, of course, our fantastic hosts. Let's hear it for our moderators and today's contested issues and your regular hosts for Higher Ed Live, Tony Duty and Heather Shea Gasser. To watch this or any other episode, please tune in to higheredlive.com each month for new, interesting, and relevant topics. And that is all the time that we have here today, folks. Thank you all. For those of you tuning in, have a wonderful Thursday. For those of you here at Rutgers, enjoy your lunch. For Student Affairs Live, I'm Ryan Bissonette, and it has been my pleasure to serve as your MC for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and take care.